Hello everyone. This is the review key points of our second discussion. I thought this past week's discussion went really well. Everyone had a really great initial post. I really enjoyed that most of you highlighted what part of the questions that you were answering. That's very helpful for me. I think most people answered all of the parts, and so that's great too. Everyone's responses were so detailed. It was amazing, and it's really great to see that you guys have put so much thought into responding to the discussion posts. That's always helpful when I go to grade them. Please also remember that you need to post, your initial post needs to be prompt. So posting on Sunday, you're gonna lose points. So as far as the key points that came out of the discussion, there were some things that I really wanted to talk to you guys about. First and foremost, I'm gonna let you in on a secret. You, as a TVI, are the most important team member. Don't tell everyone else. But it's true. You need to make sure that you get your assessments done before everyone else does. Why is this? Well, just like the first part of your discussion went over, your assessments, your functional vision assessment needs to take place before cognitive or academic testing. Well, why is that? And most of you were pretty spot on with it. And that's because we need to know how a student is using their vision in order to provide them with the accommodations so that they can access the other assessments. It makes sense, right? So an example of this is like, my husband wears glasses. With his glasses, he's 100% corrected, right? You take his glasses off and he's pretty impacted. So if I don't provide him with those accommodations, if I just send him on his way, and I have, poor David Anderson, right? If I send him on his way and I have the school psychologist assess him without his glasses, school psychologist doesn't know he needs glasses, right? So it's gonna look like he has some issues. He has tons of issues. No, I'm just teasing. But it's gonna look like he has issues when he doesn't, right? Because those accommodations aren't in place. And when we don't assess our students before other team members, that includes PT, OT, the SLP, the school psychologist for sure, classroom teachers, then we're not providing them with the knowledge they need to have correct assessments, right? So how do we do this? Sometimes it does take a little bit. You kind of have to get on your mama bear, papa bear hat on and say, hey, I need to make sure that I get my assessments done first, because I want to ensure that your assessment is accurate. So that means the school psychologist that's only there on Thursday afternoons, and he's super scary because he has a PhD and he walks around with a sport coat, you still need to go before he does. Okay, does that make sense? Yep. We are very, very, very important. Don't ever, ever, ever forget that. Second thing I wanted to share with you guys is there seemed to be a lot of anxiety about assessing a kid that's nonverbal, whether it's an infant or it's a 20-year-old with a cognitive disability. Don't have anxiety. And I want you to change your mindset. Just change it around. And a lot of you have a little bit of experience doing a functional vision assessment, and it was with a kid who was able to respond to your questioning. So I'm going to assume you had some kind of, you were looking for an acuity range, you had some cards maybe, you stand at the end of the hallway, or you sat right next to the kid while he read a certain number of font, right? So you were able to say, little Johnny was able to view the third line of the card that I gave him, and I know this because he was able to respond to me. Okay, you got to change your mindset. We are observers, and all of the assessments that we provide are informal observations, right? They are. We don't give out standardized assessments. That's not what we do. As TVIs, we're observers. We need to observe how our students are using their vision. So don't turn yourself into the vision world's sprint guy. Do you see me now? Do you see me now? Do you see me now? You do not need a response because you're observing how that student is using their vision. So part of your assessment, and a very, very, very important part, if not the most important, is how that student is using their vision within their classroom. So you're going to sit there, notes in hand, ready to go, and you're going to see how that child uses their vision to see the board, to see their peers, to see their classroom materials. You're going to see where they're sitting. And I'll tell you, because that's really the most important part of what we do, is we need to make sure that their educational environment is accessible to them. I'll give you an example. I had a kid and I assessed him in the hallway. That's all I did, right? And so within the hallway, with just the overhead lighting in the hallway, his vision was great. Absolutely great. Within the classroom, and I didn't notice this, my bad, he was facing a window, and he had a coloboma of his iris. So he's missing a part of his iris, and he's not able to make that adjustment to very bright lights, right? He's blinded by the sunlight coming in through the window. And so his vision declined significantly within the classroom. So when I realized that, I made that additional assessment by doing the observations within his classroom. I could say that 1, his seating needed to be changed, right? Change his seating. And 2, even with seating changed, he still battled some lighting issues within the classroom. So he couldn't see the board quite as well. So he needed to have an additional accommodation of being able to get up from his seat and get closer to look at what the teacher. And I also needed to stress with the teacher needed to verbalize instruction more. So it is really important that we make those observations, and that we don't rely on what the student is telling us to make those assessments. And once you turn that mindset around, say, okay, they're not telling me how they use their vision. I'm determining by observing how they're using their vision. Then you're able to assess a baby. You're able to assess that nonverbal kid in the significant support needs classroom. You're able to assess the middle schooler that doesn't want to talk to you and is pretending they don't have a visual impairment, because they get to a point where kids will lie to you. Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah, you need to really get in there and watch and say, no, we still need these accommodations in place. You don't really want to use them, but we need to make sure that they're there. So we're not relying on a student telling us how they see. We're making those observations. We're assessing that. So it's very, very, very important. So a lot of you said you picked up on Kathy Smith using play to engage the baby to be able to see how the baby's using her vision. So that, or his vision, maybe his boy. So engagement is very, very, very important. And for that infant, play was the engaging factor, right? For most kids, I would say that play and goofing around is a great way to assess their vision, right? Anybody, and it doesn't matter whether you're a toddler or you're 65, that 90-year-old, nobody wants to do a test that is boring. You just don't. So you need to know the student you're assessing. You need to get their preferences. A preference assessment would be great. You need to know how to engage that student to be able to see how they use their vision. Otherwise, you're just going to get this. So that nonverbal kid in the significant supports needs classroom that's staring off into space, are they staring off into space because that's their cognitive level, or because they can't see? Or is it because they're trying to ignore you because you're boring? It's probably the latter, to tell you the truth, right? So you need to make yourself as engaging as possible so that you can get that student engaged, so that you can see how they're using their vision. So if you talk to the classroom teacher, if you talk to their parents, if you find out they're really interested in Tinkerbell, then you use Tinkerbell. You come equipped, ready for that assessment with a Tinkerbell photocopy, and you're moving Tinkerbell around. Ooh, look at Tink. Where's Tink? Where's Tink? Where's Tink? Ooh, is Tink over here? Is Tink over here? So, and we're assessing the exact same things we would be assessing for an infant or for someone who's an adult. So that was another question. There was a little bit of variety within that question. Was what are we looking for? How does the assessment change through ability and age level? And we're looking for the exact same things. It's how we do those assessments that change, right? So if we're working with a toddler, then we're making rattling toys, right? We're bright colors. We're making those goo goo gaga sounds so that we can really get that engagement with that baby. If we're working with a middle schooler, you don't want to go like, hey, how's your day? Great, they're going to shut down. So you need to find what's going to engage them. If they're really into football, then I don't really know very much about football, but I had a middle schooler who was really into it. And so before I went in to see him, I'm sitting in my car with my phone going, what happened to the Broncos yesterday? Because otherwise this kid's not going to talk to me, right? For about a half an hour once a week, I needed to know what was going on in the Broncos end zone. And then that's what we have to do to make those proper assessments with that middle schooler. So the only thing that changes with age and ability is the way we assess, not what we assess. And I think that was really it. Otherwise, I think everything was really great, and I'm looking forward to our next discussion. So let's have a great week.